just the comment, but it was about Whitmer. And now I actually, because you mentioned this, and I'm not familiar with these developments, but I'm curious, and I may have to do a follow-up. I've heard discussion about the accused in her kidnapping case, strong discussion that they were in fact basically entrapped, and that it was the FBI sort of, I don't want to say orchestrating this, but setting it up to the point where they were setting it up to find people to do it. And the question becomes whether or not these individuals would have ever otherwise entertained the idea, but for the FBI egging them on. So what are the details? I don't know the details. I know the 30,000 foot overview.
So the basics are, if for entrapment law, is that because an undercover government agent incentivized or encouraged you to do something is why you did it. Now, it's a tough defense because you have to prove you never would have done it otherwise. But an honest investigation, the way they avoid an entrapment defense, is they never recommend, instigate, initiate, promote, support, or sponsor any illicit activity.
Where's my microphone? Good morning, people. Just make sure that this is too far that way. Everyone should appreciate that video was from October 26, 2020. And I don't want to say vindication, because this is not a question of like the O.J. Simpson division of society trial. Like you have one side of society saying, yay, this is vindication for everything. The other side saying, well, this is an injustice. This is not a question of being vindicated because, you know, criminals got off. This is a question of not having discussion stifled for politically motivated reasons. This is a question of not having discussion stifled because even to have the honest and open discussion is written off, labeled, branded as theorist or whatever other ist you want to throw onto that. Because I remember I approached this story, the Gretchen Whitmer alleged kidnapping plot. I approached it with the preconceived notion, because I was young and dumb, that we're demonetized already. Doesn't matter. Request review. I approached this case with the delusional, naive idea that the FBI doesn't do things like this. You know, by and large, if they accuse someone of a crime, it's because they have sufficient evidence for it. If they accuse someone of a heinous plot, it's because they have conclusive, indisputable, or at the very least, very compelling evidence that these individuals were guilty of a crime on their own. Having learned what I've now learned over the last 2 years, and having seen how it played out, not just in reality, but in public discourse, entertaining the notion that there might have been entrapment in Whitmer got you called all sorts of names on the interwebs. I remember it. And I remember thinking, my goodness, maybe I should just shut my mouth and avoid this and not get called the names, not by taking a side of any of the parties, but by only taking the side of the rule of law. I remember how it felt at the time. They could have been convicted, and would I be touting this as vindication? They raised a compelling defense. We're going to get to it. All that to say, if you had been watching Viva Barnes, if you had been watching Viva Frei, and then this was like back in the Highlight 71, this was back in the early days of the live stream with Robert. We only started doing the consistent live streaming under lockdown. If you had been listening and watching this channel, the results of this case, much like the results of other prominent prosecutions, would not have come as a surprise. And but for the aggregate knowledge of this community, you know, I would not have been as informed as I was on this particular subject. But we'll get to it. Short notice, Saturday morning live stream. I was going to do this yesterday, but I didn't have time during the day. I tried to get out one of the car vlogs, and I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, or I should say I'm stuck between a stream and my car in terms of the content on the channel now. How I go about doing this for someone who can't live by a schedule, who can't really live by systems all that much. There's a lot of people on the channel who love the live streams, who got to know me from the Ottawa protest live streams. And then there's, you know, the 400,000 subs on the channel before then who got to know me from the car vlogs. And the funny thing is, whenever I did the car vlogs, every now and again, I'd see a comment that says, 10 minutes of you yelling at me, quick editing, yada, yada. I don't like it. Slow down, calm down. And then when I do the live streams, people are like, I don't have 3 hours to dedicate to a live stream. And now I'm sort of really stuck between a rock and a hard place in terms of the content on the channel, because I actually love both. I love the short edited stream. I also love the live streams. I love the interviews. And I appreciate that people don't have 3 hours or 2 hours or an hour and a half to sit down for a live stream. They want the 10-minute in your face, ADHD, hyperactive blast of information. And so I think I'm just going to continue to do both randomly with no system, and we'll see where it goes. Everybody should know, if you don't have time for the live streams, go to Viva Clips. Viva Clips, not his hair. No. Viva Clips, which are the short, edited down segments of every live stream that I do, or highlights. And I think that system's been working well. But I love the vlogs. They just take a lot of time, more time than most people appreciate. Above and beyond the research, above and beyond the reading, you got to shoot the content. Takes maybe an hour worth of actual time to shoot the content. Then you got to edit it. That takes a good 2 hours. You got to get your good memes, your good clips. You've got to review. You got to publish. You got to give the heads up to the community members, the sneak peeks. And that's just for one video. So that's like 5 hours for one video. Whereas the stream, I get to read all day and all night and then go over the subject matter, prepare the links, prepare all the stuff in the back screen. So anyways, yeah, keep going. I'm gonna keep doing both. There just might not be a schedule, rhyme, or reason. It might confuse the algorithm, but I think at this point, the algorithm is not going to be that which allows this channel to continue growing. It's going to be word of mouth, sharing, community, and above all else, I hope, fingers crossed, the quality of the content and the accuracy of the information on this channel and the latest feather in the cap, notch in the belt, the gavel on the mantle is the outcome in Gretchen Whitmer trial. And we're going to talk, it's a nuanced thing. I don't celebrate criminals, and I don't celebrate the acquittal of criminals, the unjustified acquittal of criminals, just because that's the side I've taken. I could have, my opinion would have changed with the information as it did in this case. We'll get there. I saw a super chat, which I'm going to get to. BlackRock is boosting their funding into China's forceful. Okay, I don't want to read this. I don't know about that, but I'm going to look into it. But no, I can neither confirm nor deny the truthfulness or the accuracy of this statement. So BlackRock, hashtag not defamation. Okay, people. Oh, the hearts. See, no, these hearts are red now, whereas the other hearts I was seeing were black. I don't understand. Okay. Disclaimers. No legal advice, no medical advice, no election fortification advice. Super chats. YouTube takes 30% to super chats. If you don't like that, we are simultaneously streaming on Rumble. I hope we are. Let me go double check and make sure we are. I know I've given the heads up to the Rumble team that we are live streaming. Let's just see. Boom shakalaka. Click on the link. And we're good. We are live on Rumble. Rumble has these things called Rumble Rants. Rumble takes 20%. So better for the creator. You can enjoy supporting a company that supports free speech. And I think that's where we're going to go. And then what else was there? Oh, if you want to support us, $5 a month or $50 a year, vivabarneslaw.locals.com. But there is information that is available to everybody who's not necessarily a paid supporter, but just members of the community. And there's a ton of it. Most of my content on Locals is for the community as a whole, all members. Robert puts out the Hush Hushs, the Bourbon with Barnes. Those, I believe, are for supporters. I'm not sure. But anyhow, great source of information, more unfiltered, uncensored discussion on Locals. We don't swear just for the sake of it because we're not on YouTube, but we do have the more in-depth discussion about things that, YouTube likes to control the narratives on, such as the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot, the alleged, and now the acquitted 2 of the 4. We'll get there. The clips have been great for those of us who can't always watch the long-form videos. We need some Viva on the Street night videos. We can get back to those. Hey, look, if curfew hits, we'll see where I am. Okay, so on the menu today, it's going to be short. It's going to be a 90-minute stream max because I've got to go somewhere at 12:15, 12:30. We're going over the Gretchen Whitmer big news of the week. Acquittal for 2 of the 4 defendants in the alleged kidnapping plot, and mistrial for the other 2 because the jury couldn't come to a unanimous decision. That's huge. That's huge, and we're going to go into it. I think we're going to start with we're going to start with Joe Biden's soft bigotry of low expectations. The things he has said now about Ketanji Brown, KBJ, who I think she got confirmed, and what he had to say about her confirmation process. We're going to notice a theme also throughout today's 3 stories: confession through projection, and accuse your adversary of doing what you are doing so as to create confusion. Joe Biden comes out and says, you know what, forget it. We don't even need to guess what he says. Let's go hear what Joe Biden said. And then we're going to get into more of the stories. Let's just see here. Let's pause that. You know what, it's coming to the end. Yes. Let's just make sure that we're centered in the screen here. Son of a beasting. I can't see this. StreamYard. Yeah, then people say like, oh, the pace of the car vlogs is too fast. Then the pace of the streams are too slow. We're just going to mix it up. We're going to mix it up, and people are going to like it. And if they don't like it, they're going to be conditioned to like it. Okay, let's hear what Joe Biden has to say.
I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I knew the person I nominated will be put through a painful and difficult confirmation process. But I have to tell you, what Judge Jackson was put through was well beyond that. There was verbal abuse, the anger, the constant interruptions, the most vile, baseless assertions and accusations. In the face of it all, Judge Jackson showed the incredible character and integrity she possesses. Poise. Poise and composure. Patience and restraint. And yes, perseverance and even joy. Even joy.
I'm on mute. I put it on mute so we wouldn't hear any echo. Can we all appreciate what we just heard there? She was put through baseless accusations, verbal abuse, constantly interrupted. I'm going to get to the bigotry of low expectations in a second, but let's just stick with the confession through projection or accuse your adversaries of doing what you are doing so as to create confusion. Constant interruptions. Baseless accusations. Baseless accusations. Speaking of baseless accusations, speaking of accusations that came out of the blue from allegedly 35 years earlier, speaking of abuse. But does anyone remember this?
Dr. Ford, with what degree of certainty do you believe Brett Kavanaugh assaulted you?
100%.
What is the strongest memory you have?
Let's just get to. I want to skip some of this because
Are you aware that the 3 people at the party besides yourself and Brett Kavanaugh have given statements under penalty of felony to the committee?
Yes.
And are you aware of what those statements say?
Yes.
Are you aware that they say that they have no memory or knowledge of such a party?
I don't expect that PJ and Leland would remember this evening. It was a very unremarkable party. It was not one of their more notorious parties because nothing remarkable happened to them that evening. They were downstairs. And Mr. Judge is a different story. I would expect that he would remember that this happened.
I categorically and unequivocally deny the allegation against me by Dr. Ford. This whole 2-week effort has been a calculated and orchestrated political hit.
But I don't think we need any more memory than that. Can you appreciate the absolute? It's not even projection. It's not projection because it's not subconscious. This is deliberate. This is accuse your enemies of doing what you are doing so that they can't then turn around and say, no, this is exactly what you did. This is your exact MO. He accused the Republican. I watched enough of that hearing to know that, other than some hard questions, other than some typical back and forth that you would expect in, I guess it's adversarial, but in a confirmation hearing where some people don't agree with the appointment, I presume that there would be, some back and forth. Verbal abuse, baseless accusations. What were the baseless accusations, actually? I'm curious. What were the baseless accusations against KBJ? What were the baseless accusations? That she let people off easy with easy punishment for the most heinous of crimes? That's not an accusation. That's a fact. And then the only question is whether or not her explanation for that conduct, is palatable, is salvageable with someone who's going to be holding a seat on the highest court of the land. Baseless accusations and verbal abuse. They literally accused Brett Kavanaugh of being a criminal, of running, I believe train was one of the words that they used, for something that allegedly occurred 35 years ago, after this man has served in public life for decades, been investigated by authorities and intelligence multiple times, and they have the audacity now, after what was a relatively tame confirmation hearing by the standards of Kavanaugh, by the standards of Clarence Thomas, what was a relatively tame confirmation hearing, and then to portray it as though it's exactly what they did to Kavanaugh, to Clarence. I don't know who they did it to in between, because I really wasn't politically conscious back then. Outrageous. But I'm going to get to the soft bigotry of low expectations, or as I like, now just think of it as bigotry of low expectations, or just bigotry. As good as you look with short hair, the wild mane has become something of a trademark. It may not be so easy to cut in the future. I tend to agree. I'm just going back to childhood. Life is a circle. Your number of subscribers hasn't increased since after the convoy. Do you think that you are being shadow banned? Look, I've noticed it. It's been just bouncing up and down, but I picked up 100,000 subscribers in a month during the convoy. On the one hand, I think it's normal that some people who found me because of the Ottawa convoy and then, discovered that I don't only cover convoy and only Canadian issues, they might have tuned out. I have no doubt that there were tons of bots that were, jumping onto accounts to post comments and whatever. You can't pick up 100,000 subs in a month and then, get stagnant a little bit and then think the system's out to get you. I've had the thought, but then I have to put it into realism, so as not to just try to satisfy my ego and how, seeing numbers plateau feels. There's probably a more logical explanation other than being shadow banned. You pick up 100,000 subs and you get, I think it was like 7 million views in a month. Some people who tuned into you because of the Ottawa convoy and now see you going back to American politics, they're going to tune out. They're going to unsub, and YouTube's going to clean up bot subscribers in the first place. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm not complaining. This community is more than I ever could have imagined or asked for in the first place. One more. Ken Goodman. I can't wait until enough states recall their electoral votes. Well, we'll see. The funny thing is, and it's going to bring us into Whitmer. That which has been censored has now, in recent memory, more often than not, if not exclusively, actually turned out to be true. So it takes time. Think of all of the examples of things that have been censored, blocked, suppressed, removed from YouTube, and think about how those stories have ended up. We'll get to them in a second when we talk about Whitmer. The soft bigotry of low expectations. Share screen. I'm going to go back to this for a second. It's in the beginning part, because that was my ultimate point of the tweet. Listen to this.
I knew it wouldn't be easy,
It wouldn't be
but I
easy.
knew the person I nominated will be put through a painful and difficult confirmation process.
Painful and
But I have to tell you,
By the way, telling someone how to feel, because I did not look at that and come away thinking that anyone who had gone through that should have found it painful and, what was the other word he said? Painful and...
but I have to tell you, process. Difficult confirmation process. A painful and difficult confirmation process.
I didn't find it painful or difficult.
But I have to tell you,
I'm sorry. I found certain parts of it painful and difficult to watch and listen to, but not to undergo. Although 3 days of examination, I mean, that's a long time.
What Judge Jackson was put through was well beyond that.
Oh, really?
There was verbal abuse, the anger, the constant interruptions, the most vile, baseless assertions and accusations.
I'm sure glad that Justice Jackson has Biden to protect her. Can you imagine suggesting that what KBJ, I want to say KGB, what KBJ went through would be too much for someone who's supposed to be sitting on SCOTUS hearing the worst of the worst types of cases? That it would be too much for her? When I hear, I don't want to pull the gender or race cards. When I just hear somebody coming to the defense of somebody else who hasn't asked for that defense, I immediately get a little suspect. It's either virtue signaling, white knighting, I believe is the term as well. It's also the soft bigotry of low expectations to look at KBJ and say that she's so sensitive, so frail, that she somehow was offended, ought to have been offended, or that Joe Biden is offended for her, and that she can't deal with it. She can't deal with it on her own. She needs big old Joe, the big guy, to come in and come to her rescue, because she can't do it on her own. She needs Joe to do it. And it's, I say again, with the soft bigotry of low expectations from Biden, because I mentioned it before. I noticed it before in the administration's ban on flavored cigarettes. I don't know if anybody remembers this one. The administration said that they were banning flavored cigarettes. One obvious reason was for children. And that makes sense. In Canada, they've outlawed edibles that look like gummy worms and things like that, because there's a risk that children are not going to know what they are. They're going to come in contact with them, or they're going to be more drawn to them because they look like kid candy type things. The Biden administration said we're going to ban flavored cigarettes because on the one hand, it entices kids to do it and get addicted at a young age, and on the other hand, they're more prominently used among minority communities, the Black population and the Asian population, I believe. They said we're going to ban this, and the rationale, the justification from the administration is it's dangerous for children and it's dangerous for minorities, as to treat ethnic minorities like children. That's what the administration did. That's their justification. Had they just said, no, we're just doing it for the children, fine. Adults are supposed to protect children. Adults are not supposed to treat other adults like children by virtue of their race, ethnicity, or religion. And that is exactly what the Joe Biden administration did when they come out and said we're banning flavored cigarettes because of children and because they're more predominantly used by minorities. And I believe it was the Black population and the Asian population. And people in the comments like, yeah, great. Now you're so racially tolerant. You just deprived a minority of what they choose to use. So only regular cigarettes for you guys. Sorry, I know you like the other stuff, but we know better for you than you know for yourselves. And that's exactly, mutatis mutandis, what Joe Biden is doing here. Sorry, KBJ, I know better what you find offensive. I'm going to speak out in your defense because you, a babe in the woods, are incapable of doing it on your own, and you need me to come and protect you. Soft bigotry of low expectations, or bigotry pure and simple. Play some of Senator Joe Biden's own sound bites during the high-tech lynching of Clarence Thomas. He took part in, I played that a while back, one of those clips on Twitter when, people are rediscovering what they never knew they didn't know in the first place. Joe Biden on Clarence Thomas, hypocrisy be thy name. Just go Google it. It will shock you. I'll try to find that tweet or just find the soundbite. Shocking and appalling, especially, and all the more so given what he's doing today. Anti-commie says, but such is the irresistible nature of truth that all it asks and all it wants is the liberty of appearing. Thomas Paine. Beautiful, anti-commie. Thank you. So that's Joe Biden appointing the first Black woman to SCOTUS, who's so tough and so strong that she needs Joe Biden to come to her defense because people asked her hard questions during a process that is intended to be hard. Oh, but she went through verbal assault and abuse and baseless accusations. They have no memory or they do have a memory and they're liars and they just rely on their supporters not having a memory, not being aware of it, or being equally disingenuous in their application of the rules consistently, regardless of politics. So that was the first subject that I had to discuss, because I watch it and I'm like, Joe Biden doesn't believe that she's, in his heart of heart, based on what he says and based on what he does, he doesn't believe that she's able to defend herself. He doesn't believe that she's so exceptional that she can put up with it. He believes that she's so fragile that she needs him to come to her defense and exaggerate the attacks, paint her out to be a victim, because she can't deal with a confirmation hearing that was, by recent memory, lame and tame. So remember what? I believe it was the treatment of Kavanaugh was one of them, and Joe Biden's treatment of Clarence Thomas, which in retrospect now, you can just appreciate the system has always been the same. What they did to Clarence Thomas, identical to what they did to Brett Kavanaugh, except a little more contemporaneous, because at least it wasn't 35 years in the past based on some newly discovered memory submitted to the FBI on the eve of the confirmation hearings. But I remember growing up, and I remember being young and hearing the story about Clarence Thomas allegedly asked Anita Hill if there was, a follicle on her can of Coke. I remember this growing up, and I remember the impression it left in someone who just heard it tangentially. And it left a lasting impression, because, it was only until recently that I now look back at that and said, my goodness, they did Clarence as dirty as they tried to do Kavanaugh. I like both short and long videos that you post. However, I think some people are worried you'll get burned out by posting so much content. Hope not. No, I'm not going to get burned out. Viva has endless energy. Now, speaking of which, where is my coffee of this morning? Haven't been sleeping all that well. That's a problem. I had dreams about, I had a dream about Ricada. Last night, I had a dream about someone else related to work. I had a dream about fishing. Hooked a big fish. It got away, and I saw it in the water getting away, and I reached into the water to grab it, and I didn't get it. So at least I got to do some fishing in my dreams, people. Oh, hold on. Was that T-Pain the rapper, or T-Pain as in Thomas Paine? No, hold on. Well, I'm showing my sophistication. When I saw T-Pain, I thought it was the formidable poet Thomas Paine. Is he a poet or was he a historian? Hey, Viva, heard a story about FBI and Whitmer. Is this case similar to Whitmer? It has to be the same one. It has to be the same one. Did I typo Whitmer in the title? Hope I didn't. Tank imperator. People, you'll notice also when I do the live stream, my reading, you notice the problems, not problems, but you notice I make more mistakes reading live than I do in my videos, because I get to edit out my reading mistakes. Tank imperator says, my translator in Afghanistan was dragged out and shot with his family. The criminal negligence of the Brandon regime is horrendous. The laptop being buried, his son being protected, the people we promised to protect. It makes me weep. And I don't say as it should, as it will. It's if you don't, it was that, okay, but interesting. I watched the Hotel Rwanda with, it was either an interview or the movie with the commentary of the director. And the actual individual on whom the movie is based, Hotel Rwanda, it was Don Cheadle about the genocide in Rwanda. And, there was that scene in the movie where Don Cheadle, loses it. He pulls off his tie. He breaks down in between the atrocities and trying to live life. And in reality, though, the real individual on whom the character was based said he never had one of those breakdowns. He was in a form of, I don't know if he said automatism, throughout. He never had that emotional breakdown. But the director said people would not buy the movie if the protagonist didn't have the breakdown, because people are human. And if you don't have that breakdown when you're faced with soul crushing, atrocious, system crushing, faith crushing acts, it's not that you're not human, but you might have become too callous for your own good. So it should make people weep, and it should make them not black-pilled. It should make them want to make today better so that tomorrow can be better still. Dustov, I know you changed your name, and I can't. Deslov Act Mankari, keep fighting. There are 4 lights. I still have to watch that that episode of I think it's Star Trek. And so that's the soft bigotry of lower expectations. Now onto something lighter. And if we're lucky, I'm not trying to put anyone on blast. If we're lucky, we might have this young gentleman on for a stream at some point next week. I love the streams because I love interviewing. I love discussions with people, even if I don't. Well, I'm not saying that even if I don't like them, because I wouldn't like this young gentleman who asked reporters, lawyers. I'll say, as a lawyer, this question might have been a little complicated, as in a little too many facts stacked into it. But reporters, you want to ask someone a hard question. You want to ask someone a question that makes them pause and makes them reflect on every decision they've ever made in their lives. This is how you do it. I'm just going to read my comment because it's funny. For everyone who doesn't know what Giardia is, it's a form of stomach bug that you get from ingesting feces. From ingesting feces. You get it. I believe it's also known as beaver fever, where if you drink water from a river that has beaver feces in it or animal feces, you get violently ill from having consumed fecal matter, also known as poop. Well, if I didn't have Giardia before, I certainly have it now after listening to that mouthload of crap I'm expected to swallow. Now I understand why Brian Stelter blocked me on Twitter. He did. Don't care. It's funny. But reliable sources did, and so one of them might have gotten it. But listen to this. I also like the way Jack Posobiec swears on Twitter because he doesn't want to swear. He's a good man. But when you see something that makes you go, holy schlit, and I believe that you could actually say holy shit if you were going to spell it SCHITT. Shit Creek. Oh, no, that was Schmitz Creek. Damn it. Never mind. Scratch that. Fokker. It was Meet the Fockers, where in order to get away with that title for the film, they actually had to find someone whose last name was, in reality, Fokker. And when they did, they could then justify the title. I think, what was it? What's the Canadian show? I think it's Schmitz Creek. It's definitely, what's that show called? Hold on one second. Hold on, people. Is it Schitt's Creek? It is Schitt's Creek. Okay, just so hold on one second. Just so YouTube doesn't punish me. This is hold on. I got it. Okay. Cue the firing the producer joke. Okay, can we get focused on that? There we go. It's an actual show in Canada, people, with Eugene Levy, whom some people have suggested I look like when my eyebrows are fuller. They have accused me of having Eugene Levy eyebrows. Okay, now let's get back in focus. Politics ruins everything. We in focus, people? Hold on one second. Let's see. Clarence Thomas and Dr. Fauci both graduated FR College of the Holy Cross. Holy Cross is renaming their science center after Fauci. Clarence has nothing. I would, no comment. No comment. Fauci is science, people. If you question him, you are questioning science itself. I watched the Clarence Thomas hearings on C-SPAN from start to finish when I was in law school. Same tactics as Kavanaugh, ambushed at the end. Yep. Let me know if I'm blurred here, people. Do I look blurred? I'm going to put this light on and just get that a little bit. No, the politics is in focus. Okay, we're good. Viva Levi Vanelli. I don't know what that is. Okay, so what were we talking about? Oh, yeah, the Giardia. Back to Giardia. Share screen. Yeah. So Jack Posobiec, the way he swears is he swears like a polite person. Holy schlit. And listen to this question. Well-structured, well-rehearsed, delivered with confidence. Glorious. 10 on 10.
Hi, thank you for coming. My name is Christopher Phillips. I'm a first year at the college. My question is for Mr. Stelter. You've all spoken extensively about Fox News being a purveyor of disinformation, but CNN is right up there with them. They pushed the Russian collusion hoax. They pushed the Justice Smollett hoax. They smeared Justice Kavanaugh as a rapist, and they also smeared Nick Sandmann as a white supremacist. And yes, they dismissed the Hunter Biden laptop affair as pure Russian disinformation. With mainstream corporate journalists becoming little more than apologists and cheerleaders for the regime, is it time to finally declare that the canon of journalistic ethics is dead or no longer operative? All the mistakes of the mainstream media and CNN in particular seem to magically all go in one direction. Are we expected to believe that this is all just some sort of random coincidence, or is there something else behind it?
Too bad. It's time for lunch. There's a clock that says 30 seconds, but I think my honest answer to you, and I'll come over and talk in more detail after this, is that I think you're describing a different channel than the one that I watch. But I understand that that is a popular right-wing narrative about CNN. I think it's important when we talk about shared reality and democracy. All these networks, all these news outlets have to defend democracy. And when they screw up, admit it. But when Benjamin Hall, the Fox correspondent, was wounded in Ukraine, the news crews at CNN and the New York Times stopped what they were doing, and they tried to help. They tried to help him get out of the country. They tried to find the dead crew members. That's what news outlets do. That's how they actually do work together. To your question about sharing those kinds of connections and trust, we don't talk about it enough, though. We don't share that reality about how that happens.
Their problem is that they don't talk about their good deeds unrelated to journalism enough. That's their problem. Their problem is not any one of the 5 examples that this kid just gave. Their problem is that they don't talk about the good stuff that they do, which, good as it may be, is totally unrelated to journalism. Sorry, I cut off Brian.
With regards to the regime, I think you mean President Biden?
Yes, he does.
The last time I spoke with a Biden aide, we yelled at each other. So that's the reality of the news business. People don't
is it possible they yelled at each other because CNN wasn't doing enough to protect Biden from the Hunter laptop story?
See, the people don't hear. They imagine that it's a situation that simply is not. But I think your question, it speaks to the failure of journalism to show our work and show the reality of how our profession operates. We have a lot of work to do, I think.
This. Do we need to play that again? I'm going to play it again. Hold on, guys. I'm an idiot. I'm going to mute myself so that it doesn't pick up what Stelter was saying. Sorry.
Hi, thank you for coming. My name is Christopher Phillips. I'm a first year at the college. My question is for Mr. Stelter. You've all spoken extensively about Fox News being a purveyor of disinformation, but CNN is right up there with them. They pushed the Russian collusion hoax. They pushed the Jussie Smollett hoax. They smeared Justice Kavanaugh as a rapist, and they also smeared Nick Sandmann as a white supremacist. And yes, they dismissed the Hunter Biden laptop affair as pure Russian disinformation. With mainstream corporate journalists becoming little more than apologists and cheerleaders for the regime, is it time to finally declare that the canon of journalistic ethics is dead or no longer operative? All the mistakes of the mainstream media, and CNN in particular, seem to magically all go in one direction. Are we expected to believe that this is all just some sort of random coincidence, or is there something else behind it?
It's too bad. It's time for lunch.
You have 30 seconds.
No, I mean, there's a clock that says 30 seconds. But I think my honest answer to you, and I'll come over and talk in more detail after this, is that I think you're describing a different channel than the one that I watch. But I understand that that is a popular right-wing narrative about CNN. I think it's important when we talk about shared reality and democracy. All these networks, all these news outlets have to defend democracy. And when they screw up, admit it. But when Benjamin Hall, the Fox correspondent, was wounded in Ukraine, the news crews at CNN and the New York Times stopped what they were doing, and they tried to help. They tried to help him get out of the country. They tried to find the dead crew members. That's what news outlets do. That's how they actually do work together. To your question about sharing those kinds of connections and trust, we don't talk about it enough, though. We don't share that reality about how that happens. And with regards to the regime, I think you mean the President Biden. The last time I spoke with a Biden aide, we yelled at each other. So that's the reality of the news business that people don't see, that people don't hear. They imagine that it's a situation that simply is not. But I think your question, it speaks to the failure of journalism to show our work and show the reality of how our profession operates. We have a lot of work to do, I think.
All right, people. Sorry about that. Can you imagine? Just dissect that response for a second, but get to the question. Is impeccable. It's impeccable because it's objective in that it's nonpartisan. Fox News is bad, but you guys are worse. Now, some people might consider that to be partisan, but it's premised on the fact that all of mainstream media has a big problem. Having a big problem across all of mainstream media is far different or not mutually exclusive than one or two networks having a very, very big problem in particular. And we've heard, if you follow Project Veritas, if you pay attention to the news, we've heard CNN in particular is uniquely bad. They got the guy Zucker or Zuckerberg. No, it's Zucker. It's Zucker at CNN. They've got Zucker and staff recognizing that they are going with a narrative, an anti-Trump narrative. This kid's question is perfect. And I'm calling it a kid to be demeaning at all. This gentleman, this young man's question. First of all, his demeanor is amazing. He looks like he does martial arts, or he looks physically fit, in shape, and confident. Confident to be asking a question. I don't know if he had butterflies in his stomach. If that would be one of my questions to him. He's getting up there. I don't know what his history was, but he knows that he's making history with this question. He's taking it to Brian Stelter with a gosh darn well-prepared, well-crafted, well-researched, and well-presented question. If he didn't know how viral this clip would go, I guess either be careful what you wish for, or you learn the hard way if you didn't want this in the first place. The 5 examples: Kavanaugh, Sandman, Russia collusion, Biden. I forget the 5th one. I think the 5th one was, I forget. 5 concrete examples where CNN messed up. My only issue with the question is that it could have stopped after, are the canons of journalism dead? The second part, presuppose an intention, which we don't need to presuppose because we know it. Is something else going on? Yeah, we know what else is going on. We've heard the audio. My only critique, and that's just because I'm looking for a way to look smart. That question was glorious, and Stelter's uncomfortable response, got to go to lunch. Yeah, ha ha ha. Let me dodge it. Let me dodge it by making a joke. Don't be hard on me. I'm a nice, friendly, jolly man who purveys misinformation and exploits people's ignorance by doing it. And then goes into, and by the way, I was joking about Stelter gesticulating with his hands because I'm well aware that I'm quite guilty of that myself. It's just that when someone's doing things and I feel that they're lying, I judge their gesticulation a little differently. When Stelter says, we need to work together, and jokingly tries to avoid the question, says, I'll talk to you more afterwards. I'd be curious to know if they did. The cynic in me, the adult who's past the shreddies, says, was it shreddies or cornflakes? Whatever. The adult in me says they never spoke again after that, but I'd love to know. He brings up the example, immediately goes to the exploiting of injured, literally exploiting of tragedy in his own defense. When the reporter in Ukraine was injured and the other ones were killed, we stopped what we were doing, providing propaganda, and we went to help. Fine. Let's just take for granted you went and you did that. You went out of your way. You worked together to get them out of harm's way. Good for you. You did something good. Has nothing to do with your propaganda journalism. And so it's the classic diversion is, look, I'm a good boy. Don't get mad at me for that because I did something good somewhere else, totally unrelated. But just to literally use victims as a shield to this question, it's par for the course for the CNN misinformation, disinformation, dishonesty. And then to say that our failure as journalists is not to focus on the good that we're doing, as opposed to just be honest. And did he say something about admitting mistakes when they make mistakes? As far as I know, I don't believe they ever apologized to Sandman. I may be wrong. And if I am wrong, I will correct myself publicly and loud. I don't believe they ever apologized to Sandman. They settled with him, but I don't believe they ever apologized to Sandman. I know for a fact that, unless she did it recently, Elizabeth Warren and Deborah Haaland never even took down their tweets. So imagine this flagrant hypocrite dancing and prancing and distracting and conflating to what was probably the best question ever asked. And that's the type of question that CNN should be asking to the Biden administration. That's the type of question that they should be asking all of them. Covering up for the Hunter Biden laptop, which arguably, but not so arguably, impacted an election. That is independent journalists actively working to affect the outcomes of elections. Oh, but CNN, they're supposed to. We're supposed. Sandman, Kavanaugh. It's one after the other, and there is no answer for it. There is no answer for it. There's no possible answer for it, because the dishonesty, the deceit, the malicious conduct, the irresponsible conduct, it's just such a long proven track record that you can't just all of a sudden say, yeah, we made a mistake. Sorry about that. We'll do better. So, I mean, let me see here. So this is an interesting question. When you're providing something of value, typically you've got to register it as a campaign donation. You know, something of value. It doesn't have to be a check. It could be free advertising. It could be promotional services that may not, you know, it may not have a monetary value or an easily determinable one. But when you provide a service, something of value, you need to disclose it, declare it. What they did was effectively the catch and kill strategy of tabloid journalism, or it was effectively the catch and kill, which is what the Trump campaign did with the Stormy Daniels story. Buy the rights to it, and then make sure it never gets published. The problem is that costs money. So this was effectively a catch and kill, except there was no catch, there was no kill. It was just an ignore and stifle. But same outcome. And the only difference being when you do the catch and kill for a news story, it costs you lots of money. And so that is to effectively confirm mutatis mutandis that the stifle and ignore is a form of catch and kill. It has monetary value, immeasurable monetary value. It is an immeasurable campaign donation. I agree. I mean, that's, we had discussed something along those lines at some point during one of the streams, but yeah, it's anyways, it was a great question. I'd love to have the young gentleman on for, pop in for 20-30 minutes to talk about the experience. And but he's got to have some training, that predates this question, because it was not a fluke of a question, and it was not a fluke of a delivery either. It was great. It was fun to watch. Let me see here. We got in the chats, and then we're going to get into Stormy Daniels, meanwhile, now owes Trump legal fees, as does Shirley Teeter, the alleged bird dogger, who has now been ordered to pay legal fees to litigation costs to Project Veritas in the order of $15,000, $15,000 and change. Furious George, I get that name. So it's great question. More embarrassment for Brian Stelter, and he deserves it. It's and to call your show reliable sources. I mean, I guess it is reliable sources in the sense that you can reliably know that the sources are going to be politically biased, intellectually dishonest, and absolutely wildly driven by narrative. So I guess it's reliable in that sense. Please have the kid on. Well, we'll see. I mean, if people don't want to or can't, I mean, it's not a question of shaming. I've reached out to him. So fingers crossed we can make it happen. And next week could be a big week because there's some interesting names on the back burner that I just have to, the timing has to work out because there's a lot of moving parts in everybody's lives. Rittenhouse. That was the other one. Rittenhouse. Well, Rittenhouse is much more complicated. Once you've been, formally criminally charged, it does become different and more difficult to allege defamation because he was formally criminally charged. So what's going to be the damage to his reputation to say that, he shot, because one of the false claims, which was in the Independent, it was a British newspaper. I think it was the Independent. Anyways, they overtly said he shot 3 black males at the BLM protest, like the day of his acquittal. That was what they said in the bullet points of their article. They then, immediately edited it to say he shot 3 males at a Black Lives Matter protest to leave it ambiguous. But then the questions, would be, that's a factually incorrect statement, but what's going to be the impact? What's going to be the damage to an individual who went through a trial for a murder trial? I mean, he was acquitted. So it's much more complicated with Rittenhouse in law, more difficult, I should say, because he was criminally charged. He went through a trial. Sandman, he just had his life ruined in the absence of an actual criminal charges and in the absence of a trial after which he could effectively be vindicated or acquitted in any event. So, there's an argument that it's even more unjust because there was never even a trial that he can now say, look, I was acquitted, I'm innocent. No, always guilty in the public mind. I know people who still think Sandman had a bastard smirk on his face, that he should have just walked away. I still know people who think that kid exemplifies, intolerance in America. Or what was it? I think it was, as Philly D said, hatred in America. He stands against hatred. And then when he has to swallow his words and come to grips with the fact, Philip DeFranco, that he made a baseless accusation that maligned this 16-year-old kid, he says, I stand by my statement that I stand against hatred. Good for you. You know what? If you have to come out and publicly say you stand against hatred, something in me suspects that you don't actually stand against hatred. Thinking you need to come out and say that you stand against things which are obviously bad causes me to question whether or not you actually think that they're bad, because no rational, logical person thinks that people are morally required to come out and publicly state that they object to things which are morally reprehensible. No rational person actually thinks that. No love-filled person thinks that if you don't come out and say you stand against racism, you stand against hatred, you stand against violence, that you somehow endorse it. No rational person actually thinks that. And anybody who says, you didn't condemn it enough, you don't condemn violence, you don't condemn that which is bad by its very nature. You don't need to. And anybody who expects you to has an ulterior motive there, and probably an ulterior set of moral standards. They probably think that it's justified when they think it's justified. Okay. With that said, people, although there is no H in with, that doesn't mean I can't infuse it in, as I have been doing for months on years now. Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot. Let's just go. Do I still have that back window open here? Let's go look at Cringe Viva. Let's go look at Cringe Viva right here. Oh, the days back when I look in my eyes, my old eyes, and I can see the insecurity of feeling awkward talking to a camera. And in case anybody doubts me,
this particular article says that the FBI had two other informants on the inside collecting information.
See, I'm an idiot in that I don't learn fast enough. Mute.
But according to a BuzzFeed article that is far more recent than this article, it seems that the FBI used at least 12 other informants in order to infiltrate this group. And one has to seriously start asking the question that if you have 12 FBI informants infiltrating a group of 6 people, at what point do the FBI informants become the group? Setting that question aside, setting a fact that the FBI seems to have used at least 12 informants to infiltrate this plot, setting aside the fact that one of their informants has now been indicted on federal gun charges, it gets even worse for the prosecution because now it seems that one of the FBI agents themselves have been indicted on assault charges. The Detroit News: FBI agent in Whitmer kidnap case arrested following domestic incident.
The domestic incident, by the way, I'll tell you one thing that I like more about that old Viva, the beard. I'm going to try to grow that out so that it becomes massive and burly. See, the white, I seem to have lost the white. Anyhow, the beard was better there. The rest, I think, might have been. What was I saying? The oh god, yeah, that FBI agent. Okay, no comment. But the FBI agent who was arrested on domestic violence charges, stripped. He was the central FBI agent in this case. He was the star witness for a while, from what I remember. Had a domestic incident after he and his partner, spouse, wife went to a swingers party. I don't think many people, it's my personal opinion, open relationships don't end well. Keep your schmeckle in your pants and you will avoid a lot of grief in life. Let me rephrase. If you're married, keep your schmeckle in your pants and you'll avoid a lot of grief in life. But even if you're not, keep it in your pants and you'll avoid a lot of grief in your life. And we can think of recent examples of prominent celebrities who, everybody wants to, do I need to put on headphones? Tell me if there's still echo, people. There's been some recent examples where having a certain lifestyle as an adult, even if it's morally innocent, morally not blameworthy, can lead to some serious problems, some serious accusations. But this was back in July, where you had FBI agents getting in trouble with the law. Some of their informants, again, breaking the law. Other informants in this case being paid healthy annual salaries, probably more than most Americans, for their role in infiltrating, in exploring, in discovering and exposing this plot. They were receiving not just salaries, but the paid informants, for those of you who don't know, had active leadership roles in the alleged plot. But at least there is an H in forthwith. There can be an H in pretty much everything. Did I see this one here? Viva fell in love with his reflection and forgot why he played the video. I did. The beard was good. This case was interesting from the beginning, and the more facts that came out, I know how I started off thinking in this case. I know how I started off thinking in the Michael Flynn judicial saga. I did not start off so quickly with the presupposition of guilt in Sandman or Amy Cooper, although I still did, because humans are human. I remember in Nick Sandman, I believe I said, the school, when they were chanting things like, don't they realize that this makes everyone look kind of, I think I remember saying something like that, when it looked like they were chanting to drown out the drumming. Anyway, it just shows you, you get burnt once, you won't get burnt again quite so quickly. Once bitten, twice shy, for good and for bad. But I want to share a screen. Let's just get the news, people. Sorry, I should get the article, which was no convictions. Do we want to go with the CBC? We're going to go 2 acquitted. Let's go with the Guardian. I'm always nervous about cookies. What you want, a cookie? Let me see here. Boom, shakalaka. Okay, so this is the Guardian. Let me just make sure that we're looking at the same screen, and we are. The Guardian. 2 acquitted and mistrial declared for 2 others in Whitmer kidnap plot trial. Jury in Grand Rapids acquit 2 on conspiracy to kidnap the Michigan governor, and unable to agree on verdicts for the other 2 men. They're going to go have another trial. The Crown already announced it. 2 of the 4 men were acquitted on Friday for conspiracy to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer in a plot prosecutors said was motivated by fury at the Democrats' tough COVID-19 restrictions in the early stages of the pandemic. Those are the 2 individuals who were acquitted. Jurors could not agree on Adam Fox and who was the other one? Who are they? Could not agree on verdicts against Adam Fox, who prosecutors described as the ringleader of an anti-government group. Oh yeah, and Barry Croft Jr. Okay, mistrial declared. Listen to this. In a statement, Whitmer's chief of staff, Joanne Hulls, said, there must be accountability and consequences for those who commit heinous crimes. We all agree on that. Without accountability, extremists will be emboldened. We all agree on that. Let's substitute the word heinous crimes and extremists for entrapment and government agents. There must be accountability and consequences for those who commit entrapment. Without accountability, government will be emboldened. This isn't, I said the theme of hashtag confession through projection or accuse your enemies of doing what you're doing so as to create confusion. It's going to run through all 3 stories today. This is how it runs through this one. You have Whitmer's chief of staff saying, yeah, people who commit heinous crimes should be held accountable. There's no question. You don't need to say something like that. Without accountability, criminals, extremists will be emboldened. Agreed. You don't need to say things like that. We all know that. But this applies as well for the government overreach, and what I guess the jury found in this case to be entrapment. So just brother, there must be accountability and consequences for those who do certain things. Without accountability, certain people will be emboldened. I'm going to bring this story out now. Stop screen, and I'm going to bring in another story, which is the BuzzFeed. No, it wasn't BuzzFeed. Which one was it? Yeah, here, it's this. Let me just see which one this is. Yeah, this is the BuzzFeed article. Without accountability, people will be emboldened. Without identifying and sanctioning bona fide entrapment, what's going to happen? Oh, I'm sorry. That's what it was. At one point in the article, it said, they talk about normalizing extremism. When this BuzzFeed article came out back in the day, when was this from? July 2021. I read this article and I said, this article is normalizing government entrapment. The article is almost saying it's normal for there to be 12 plus informants, FBI agents, in order to infiltrate a plot. It's normal. It's normal that they do things in order to promote the plot. It's normal, people. Get used to it. I read this article, and that was my thought. And I'll just read this section right here, which was the part that I found, the most revelatory. An examination of the case by BuzzFeed News, also reveals that some of those informants acting under the direction of the FBI. So just parse that for a second. The informants, paid informants, some of them, acting under the direction of the FBI. So you have people who are the ones purportedly exposing or infiltrating this plot, but they're being paid by the government and they're operating under their direction. An examination of the case by BuzzFeed News also reveals that some of those informants acting under the direction of the FBI played a far greater role than has previously been reported. Working in secret, they did more than just passively observe and report on the actions of the suspects. Instead, they had a hand in nearly every aspect of the alleged plot, starting with its inception. The extent of their involvement raises questions as to whether there would have even been a conspiracy without them. This is from BuzzFeed, people. And it's, talk about burying the lead. How far into that article do you have to go in order to have probably the most important question of that article brought to your attention? You have to get far into that article. So, it has people asking whether or not there would have even been a conspiracy without the involvement of paid FBI informants operating at the direction and instruction of the FBI, remunerated by the FBI, playing a decisive role at every step of the way, including the inception of the project. And you have people out there who are still saying, go to jail. I mean, I tweeted out yesterday, and I'm not trying to put anybody on blast, but I said, 2 years ago, if you had said, and I know from experience, this could smell like entrapment, you were branded as a theorist, or I'm just going to say a realist now. You were branded, you were labeled, you were maligned, you were accused and called all sorts of names. Someone in response said, funny, I don't care how many FBI agents approach me, I'm never going to commit a crime. And to which I responded, yeah, that's why they're not going to approach you. That's why they're not going to try to use you as a stooge to set up the crime to infiltrate in the first place. There's a reason why historically, when these types of situations have occurred, they have gone after people who are mentally unwell, who are vulnerable, who are easy to manipulate, or who are easy to instigate. There's a reason why they go after a specific target in order to manipulate them to commit crimes that, but for they, arguably would never have committed or never have entertained in a serious manner, in a serious criminal manner. Everyone out there has probably at some point in their life said, I'm going to kill you, and had absolutely, not even in a malicious way. Or, say that, I'm going to beat the crap. Everybody has uttered statements that could be, if someone wants to just take black and white words on a paper, can be interpreted in a criminal sense. Everyone out there has probably said, some stupid things in the moment. But when the FBI deliberately targets people, and I don't want to call anybody names in this case, they have been given labels that I'm not going to repeat, but they're not flattering as far as mental capacity goes, as far as mental wellness goes. They were all, one individual lived in the basement of a vacuum shop, and, whatever his underlying mental issues were, apparently he was, frequently consuming the Mary Jane. This is an individual who, a lot of people talk about stupid things, but they don't have 12 paid FBI informants to then infiltrate and then train them and then conceive of the idea and put it into the works by exploiting their mental issues, their vulnerability, mental, physical, spiritual, financial, in order to do it. So it's that BuzzFeed article was shocking at the time, because the conclusion of the article was, after getting through that paragraph, okay, so they did this. So people are questioning whether or not there would have even been a conspiracy. If you're even questioning that, by the way, there's your defense. BuzzFeed made their defense. Some people are even questioning whether or not there would have been a conspiracy without them. Well, there's your reasonable doubt. There's your defense of entrapment. BuzzFeed made it. They made it en passant, and they made it in a way so as to normalize this type of FBI conduct. Get used to it going forward. Get used to more FBI agents, more FBI informants than alleged perps. Get used to active participation, active instruction, active training from the moment of inception. Get used to it. And then when they find people who are, stoogey enough to be the stooges, lock them up for life, because that's what these people would have been, that's what the 2 acquitted could have been facing. The other 2 who are going to stand trial still face that. Viva, I think your sound doesn't come from your big mic. It sounds different. Oh, that would be so irritating. It has not been coming through my big mic the entire time. The one time how bad has the audio been? Flipping. Now I'm angry. How bad has the audio been, people? Let me know in the chat. Has the audio been terrible 1 or adequate 2? I don't even want to go with good versus bad. 2, the audio has been adequate. The one freaking time I don't check to double check, because the video was coming through default. I could see that. God damn it. Sorry. Don't mean to use the Lord's name in vain, but gosh darn it, is that frustrating. Anyhow, thank you. You shouldn't have pointed it out. Let me just live the lie at least. I would never have known. Okay. But so BuzzFeed is, I didn't get enough of a condemnation from BuzzFeed. I don't want to switch now because I'm going to put this into a podcast anyhow, so it's going to mess with the audio if I do it. So we're going to live with the mistake. BuzzFeed, I didn't get the feeling we're condemning it enough. I got the feeling they were sensitizing the general public to this is how it's going to happen going forward. And in a way, it puts January 6th in perspective. This is the way it's going to be, people. If the FBI has to pay more informants than accused, if the FBI and its informants have to play an active role in setting it up, carrying it out, training individuals, finding the right vulnerable people to exploit, if that's how they have to foil crime, get used to it. That's what justice is going to be going forward in America. Well, I don't know that there'll be any sanctions for the entrapment in this. Barnes and I have talked about it. And And I think he mentioned that there have been only 2 cases where there has been FBI sanction for entrapment. I doubt this will be one of the cases. Audio is great, except when you play a video. Yeah, that would have been that would explain why there was more echo, because with this, it's directional, so it wouldn't have picked up on the camera and whatever. Now I'm going to be absolutely traumatized with my neuroses going forward. I'm going to check every time. I'm going to check 3 times throughout a stream from now on. So anyways, that was the story. Let me get back to the article, because I just want to highlight the part that I was talking about. Oh, I closed it down. Oh no, here, 2 acquitted here. So back to the article. Defense attorneys portrayed their clients as credulous weekend warriors, prone to wild talk and often consuming things we should not be consuming. I say that as a joke, with the exception of a snifter of ported Christmas. FBI undercover informants, agents and informants, the attorney said, tricked them into agreeing to a conspiracy. But where was it? Yada, yada, yada. So the decision, they got the decision. The decisions were announced a few hours after the jury said it was struggling to find unanimity on all 10 charges. The judge told jurors to keep working, go for it. They'll get another trial. I wanted to find the part where deliberations resumed earlier, with a court employee handing over a large plastic bag containing pennies, known as Exhibit 291. The pennies were requested before jurors went home on Thursday. Pennies taped to commercial-grade fireworks were intended to act like shrapnel, investigators said. I asked the question. I don't know the answer. Who would have put that idea in somebody's head? I mean, who would have put that? If the paid informants get these guys and say, you know what you really need to do? This is what you need to do to make it worse. Look, they were going to do it. And Barnes and I have talked about the threshold for entrapment. What the observing agents are supposed to do. They can't put the idea. They can't make recommendations. We've talked about that. Was the highlight at the beginning of the stream. They weren't even just making recommendations. They were training. They were the paid FBI informants. I think it was the guy who was getting paid $60,000 a year. Was the one telling the guys, let's. I'm going to show you how to do things. We're going to go in the middle of the woods and train. Oh, here we go. This is it. This was the statement. Projection accuse your enemies of doing what you're doing. In her statement, Hull's Whitmer's chief of staff said, today, Michiganders and Americans, especially our children, they're always throwing in the children the way Stelter reflexively goes to another. Shield yourself with the victims. That's what they do. Especially our children are living through the normalization of political violence. I would argue that what they're living through right now is the normalization of government abuse and government overreach and entrapment for the sake of foiling the crime. There are legit times when the FBI or authorities foil a crime. There are, on the other hand, legit times where they actually create the crime in the first place. And in my view, knowing what I now know of this case, the question would be, would these 4 individuals ever have seriously entertained any of these ideas on anything more than sitting in a basement doing whatever they do, joking around about how angry they are, versus being trained, organized, encouraged by paid government informants. The plot to kidnap and kill a governor may seem like an anomaly. It is, but we must be honest about what it really is. The result of violent, divisive rhetoric that is all too common across the country. Contextualize that, people, with the other Gretchen Whitmer controversy, 8645, talking about normalizing violent rhetoric, talking about normalizing political violence, talk about normalizing government abuse and government overreach and entrapment. Talk about normalizing that, but substitute the words. You have a governor who had 8645 it wasn't front and center, in the backdrop of one of her public speeches. 86 means to nix, or as some people say, 80 miles out, 6 feet deep, or as others used to say, 8 by 6 was the size of a coffin. 86 used in mob talk to take someone out. 8645. And you've got her chief of staff talking about how violent rhetoric is being normalized in the country. Divisive, violent rhetoric. Confession through projection, through and through. She added, the governor remains focused on her work on behalf of Michigan and all Michiganders. You'll never forget that word once you've heard it. That includes addressing violence and threats to our democracy. Does it include investigating grotesque amounts of deaths in old person facilities, long-term healthcare facilities, because COVID positive patients were being sent back? The deaths were being covered up. I need to get Charlie LaDuff on. Charlie, if you're watching, I'm going to message you after this. We need to have that stream that we've been talking about. The entrapment defense is basically impossible to pull off. That's how deeply the FBI were involved in this. The entrapment defense is basically, in general, impossible to pull off. Leon's Law, thank you. The statement is, entrapment as a defense is so difficult to prove. That's how deeply the FBI were involved in this, because they succeeded on it. I'm curious to know why they couldn't get a decision one way or the other on the other 2 defendants. They might have had a more active role that they might construe as legit conspiracy. I don't know. But yeah, Leon's Law, that's my understanding as well. And I trust your understanding more than mine, because I believe that you might actually have, first of all, based on the $sign, you are American, so I will trust your assessment of American law over mine. But thank you for the chat. Mandalore Wise, what I still don't know, WTF, what the fudge is the alleged WMD they are going to use? It was an explosive. It was just explosives. And now it seems that the explosive that they were going to use might have been fireworks with pennies attached to it. I mean, that's the WMD, I unless I'm mistaken, and I don't think I am, were explosives, because I made the tongue-in-cheek quip at the time. Well, if that's what a WMD is, then Iraq certainly had them. Did the FBI dust off one of those old Save Crockett's, or was the secondhand smoke enough? Yeah, if they were asking for the pennies that were going to be attached to fireworks to create shrapnel, that might be the WMD that they were referencing. Stupid idea, by the way, anyone out there. Don't do that. Don't tinker with fireworks either. That much I can tell you from experience. We used to have we used to be stupid kids. I emptied out fireworks and opened up the capsules of the Roman candles. That stuff is explosive. I'll tell you one thing. I put a match to it. It caught. It flamed up and then singed my hand faster than I could even pull out. But yeah, that I think is the WMD that they were talking about. Christoman says, un petit 5 pour t'encourager de la part d'un Montréalais du quartier français. That says, here's a small 5 to encourage you from the Montrealer from the French Quarter. Christoman, merci beaucoup. What else did I have on the backdrop for that story? Because I had a few articles that I pulled up that I wanted to go over. Yeah, this is what I mean. This is the part that I had about the BuzzFeed article. Let me not make the mistake the third time. The learning curve. The first time is the rule. The second time is the exception, and the third time the exception becomes the rule. City of God. Let me bring this one down here. Mute.
FBI informants getting indicted, FBI agents getting arrested, and now it seems that the FBI is withholding material evidence from the defense.
That was the other issue, is that the FBI had withheld evidence from the defense, and there were text messages between the FBI agents and their paid informants instructing them to delete the messages between the two of them. Oh, sorry, that was up there. No hair. That was when I had a 6 skin fade. Oh, the place has since, I think, went out of business. But reading that BuzzFeed article on the Whitmer alleged plot, I get the distinct impression BuzzFeed is trying to normalize entrapment, share a way to be discussed Sunday with Barnes Law. Or did Viva get sick? His current face looks so gaunt compared to his older face. Do you know what it is? It's the beard. You trim it, and it looks like I have a massive chin in that video compared to now. But I'll tell you, I haven't lost weight. I haven't put on weight. I have been roughly the same weight for the last 30, how old am I? Yeah, basically the last 29 years. Same, if the scale is accurate as well, same body fat percentage, relatively speaking. I think I used to be like under 7 at one point. Now, adulthood takes on. I don't like the Satan. Which one? Anyway, so what else did I have for Whitmer? There was that. It's an amazing thing to see in real time. Conspiracy 2 years ago, reality today, in more ways than one, and in more stories than one. We're seeing it left, right, and center. Okay, I got the soft bigotry, got the more problems for Whitmer, reading the BuzzFeed article, and then we got we covered the stories. Let's see what I'm gonna hold on. Cancel this. Let me just go to Rumble and make sure that I haven't missed anything on Rumble. Maybe we'll go back to my Twitter feed just to. Oh, we got one Rumble rant from Niboopsh or Nibu Opsh. Remember, kids, YouTube is for Disney loving. It's for Disney loving groomers. Always use Rumble. The lasting problem with YouTube is it's still the place to reach people who you don't already reach. And it's, and look, there's also the financial aspect of, you don't cut your nose off to spite your face financially and reach wise. One day I do believe Rumble will be the place where it will be cool to have Rumble will be the cool place to be, but I also think Rumble is going to change the narrative and make free speech cool again. I should put that on a hat. Make free speech cool again. Trademarked, copyrighted. Phishing is for narcs, just saying that there seems to be an awful lot of baiting and entrapment going on. It's a joke, brother. Bear Lamb, thank you very much. It's not a bad joke. Yeah. And let's see, we got, I'm not your buddy guy says, let this sink in. The FBI have organized bombings, drug trafficking, human trafficking, and riots. They become the evil they fought. What's that saying about staring into the abyss? Well, I don't think they become the evil they fought. I think they don't exist without the evil they need to fight. It's the Unbreakable plot, Well, it's not really the Unbreakable plot. What's that movie called? Unbreakable. Samuel Jackson, Bruce Willis. They don't exist without a reason to exist. So in order to justify that reason to exist, hey, if something happens, it justifies our reason to exist. And if nothing is there to happen, well, let's go looking for let's go looking for scabs to pick to create an infection. Have you looked into the story of the potentially? Oh, I will not talk about that here. I'm not even sure that I can talk about that anywhere. I saw it. Her name is I know. I follow the person who posted the video. It has Grace in her name and Ruth. If anybody knows the name of the account that tweeted the video, I see it's. It's just, I tell my kids, horror movies are not scary in comparison to things that humans actually do. There's a reason as you get older, And as we've progressed through, like, horror used to be supernatural. It used to be ghosts and exorcism and things like that. It used to be aliens. And now horror movies are just people doing bad things to people. And they don't even scratch the surface of the actual horrors that humans commit. So, Hellraiser, I remember Hellraiser gave me nightmares as a kid. Don't ask why I was allowed to watch Hellraiser as a kid, but that gave me nightmares. The Changeling, the original, not the crappy remake, gave me nightmares. You get older, though, and you realize the supernatural is not the most horrific. It's actually just what humans do to other humans. I did not realize how shaggy you are until I saw the old, clean-shaven look. The question is this, Alex Ambrose. Which one do we prefer? Cassidy the Carpenter says, walking back from jiu-jitsu and a Saturday Viva live stream is playing. So far, my day is going quite well. LOL. Have a great weekend, y'all. What time is it here? 12:05. So we're going to start winding this down sooner than later. Thank you very much. And yeah, I think I'm going to get into I started doing push-ups again after I jogged, but I'm just tired. I'm tired. After I've jogged, I don't want to do push-ups anymore. How is Trump's Twitter app coming, Viva? I don't know which one that is. If you're talking about Truth, I have not even asked to join. But look, he might not have to worry about he may not have to worry about his own app if Elon can make some changes at the Twitter world. Scud missiles weren't considered WMDs without a nuclear warhead. I doubt the same buffoons from Michigan were capable of anything close to that. That's true. And that remember I being is that I remember as being one of the arguments that retroactively justified the invasion of Iraq, where they said they weren't supposed to have Scud missiles, therefore those were the WMDs or could qualify as such that we were looking for. I've subsequently now, gotten wise enough to know why that argument at the time partially true, which means that it's partially false, which means that if it's intended to assert a fact, it's incorrect. Let's see. Hold on. Let's just do this. Hey, everyone's entitled to share their opinion. I do not block people. Although I did look at my list of blocked people. There were, the ones that fit the criteria for very, very rare exceptions and a lot of Russian sex bots. We haven't seen any Russian sex bots lately. That's good. Maybe I got them. I noticed there were like a dozen or so. Future story, IDRA. Rebel News lawsuit against Trudeau government for denying them a journalism license. I've been following that. I've been in touch with Ezra. I want to follow up with Alexa Lavoie's lawsuit against her claim against the government for the police abuse, having shot her in the leg point blank with a tear gun canister. I know they're going to be taking action there, so I want to follow that without a doubt. That throw is close to. Thank you. Okay, hold on 1 second here. Future. Okay, so that was it. I didn't miss anything. Well, hold on. They did. They spammed. If they just wanted to have an account and post a comment every now and again, the spamming is spamming is not an exercise of free speech. It's an exercise of abuse and exploitation. Okay, hold on 1 second. Let's just go to here. Let's do this, and let's just make sure that we're not going to go video. I just want to go see if there's anything in my Twitter timeline, which is my living diary now. I got the Rubin Reports book yesterday. The match thing on the outside is not an actual match thing, but amazing packaging. Now I just have to actually read a book with my eyes. And I'm not sure I can do that, so I'm probably just going to end up buying it on Audible. I can't read with my eyes. Okay, the Shannon Sharp. The Project Veritas posted up yesterday. Well, this is my response to the individual who said, the FBI can approach me all day long. They're not going to get me to commit a crime. Yep, that's why they're not going to approach you if their plan is to do what they did in the Gretchen Whitmer alleged kidnapping plot. All right, I think we've done good. Oh, yeah, this is me saying, I don't believe that an edit button on Twitter is a good idea. It's an impossibility. You can't do it. The abuse would be rampant, and even the subtle abuse would be rampant. And it would also allow people to edit mistakes. Now, agreed, if you have a history timeline, time machine of the edits, fine. But no one's going to go into a history to see. So if you want to delete a tweet because it had a mistake, fine, because people can screen grab the original and there won't be a layer to go through to get to what the original was. I was on with Adam Krigler. It was a wonderful, wonderful stream Thursday night. If you haven't seen it, I would invite you to go check it out. Okay, there's not much more there. Let's just go back and take some questions in the chat if we see any. Okay, hold on. I'm going to go down and see if we have anything other than non-super chat. New indictment. I don't know what that is. I'll have to see. No, nobody can. I don't expect you to care about twatter. That's my running diary in life, because that's my thought diary. It's where I put some things, some expressions that I think are insightful. But that's where I go. Shaggy or not shaggy, at the end of the day, it's character that matters. Sounds like a good line for a T-shirt. I agree with you, Alex. In fact, I agree with you on substance. Might be too much for a shirt. The tweet would show that it's edited, yes. But if it required someone to go back to the edit, it would be too difficult to correct mistakes without sufficient clear evidence of the original mistake. And it would be too easy to subtly edit. You could see edit on a comment on Facebook or YouTube, but you lose the original. And for a comment, I can understand editing. I still think it has been abused on YouTube, but I can understand it. But for tweets, it's too big, because too many people can retweet a tweet and then edit it and then say, oh, well, you could see the history. Yeah, and then you get caught having retweeted a tweet, unless they implement a system where if you edit a tweet that's been retweeted, you lose all of the retweets. But then it gets very complicated to go back to your timeline and see where a tweet was that you had retweeted if it disappears from your retweet timeline. So I think it's unfeasible, and I also just think it will be too easily abused. Ottawa, April 29. Bikers, there's going to be apparently another, not bicyclist, but motorcycle protest in Ottawa. Edit with strike, but that's not feasible for the Twitter, layout format. Are my comments spam, BioWars? I don't think so. Spam is different. Spam is different than spam in the sense that it has to come too often, just the same message over and over again. But even then, if I put on 15-second delay, do it if that's how you want to use your 15 seconds. Okay, what else? Those are the 3 stories, by the way. So now I'm going to go clip those 3 stories down. I'm going to put them on Viva Clips so that if anybody doesn't want to sit through an hour and a half of me jabbering away, they don't have to. What else? I'm going to, I'm still going to do the vlogs. I'm still going to do the vlogs because I like them. And that's it. So we're going to have to navigate streams and vlogs on the main channel, Viva Frei. Clips from the streams on Viva Clips. And when I get around to doing a family video or a non-law related video, Viva Family. People, enjoy the weekend. I'm going to be out. I'm going to be out and about, and it's going to be fun. So there may be updates there. Hold on a second. What we've got here. Viva, are we allowed to feed the trolls? I do not tell people who to vote for. I certainly do not say what they can say to other people. Thank you, Candace. Yes, love those videos. Light Giver says, Viva, the bikers, mostly vets, are not protesting. They are going to honor the memorial and place a wreath there. They do not want trucks, cars, or protesters. Light Giver, thank you for specifying. I will be there documenting unless I'm physically incapable or unable to be there. April 29. Salmon fishing trip, West Coast this summer. Well, maybe just, if I can, just fishing. Just a Viva Clips are on. Hold on a second. I'm going to go here and just put the link in and then pin it so everyone can go. Oh, here. Well, no, that's live now. That's Viva Clips. Boom shakalaka. Here it is. Here is the link. Here I shall go to YouTube. I shall go into the stream. I shall put the pinned comment there, and now I shall pin the comment. Pin it. Pin it. Stop moving. Pin message. There we go. That's Viva Clips, people. All right, so that's it. Shocked me with a clip of the old, refined Sean Viva, like time traveling. Yes. And then one day, if and when, I may grow the beard. Like, that would be a beard the size of the fro would be too much. Let's see what we got. Note, brand new Julie Nolk Mandela effect. I don't know what that is. And we got, in the words of the Terminator, I'll be back. Well, I will be back tomorrow night, people, with Viva and Barnes Sunday night stream. Look, I've given my, I'll call it a more ignorant analysis. I'll call it a more superficial analysis. We're going to go into some greater detail on these stories and other stories, because now I have to go look into, I believe it was Timothy McVeigh, to talk about another example where the FBI may have, selected an individual Yeah. One bit of good news: Disney lost 2.4 billion in shares. Oh, another lake dunk, maybe. You know what? Maybe I'll just publish that video, that was me going into Icy Lake last weekend, getting the heart flowing. We'll see. But listening to you blabber away is how I deal with the people at work. Herbert Ramsey, it's not a bad way. And you might actually, as a result, expand your mind instead of rot your brain like everybody else watching CNN and the Brian Stetlers do on a daily basis. Okay, just going back to Rumble, and I don't think I missed anything. All right, people. So that is it. Thank you very much. Well, I exercise. I try to exercise daily, even if I get very, very tired in life. My hair is my brand. I think I've come to accept that right now. Okay, people, an hour and a half on the nose. Go enjoy the weekend. Much love to you, brother. Same to you, my cat. Feed. Enjoy the weekend. Get outside, exercise, fresh air, vitamin C, vitamin D. Talk to people in real life. It's a very different experience than Twitter and social media. See you all tomorrow night. And if I can, who knows? Maybe I'll get out a 10-minute vlog on the Whitmer. There's no more news. Maybe I'll do a little 10-minute vlog for the channel. Or maybe something else. We'll see. Enjoy the day, people. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for the support. Clip, snip, share away. Everything is also on podcast. Typically, almost everything. Viva and Barnes, Law for the People. It's on iPod, Google, Stitcher, Podcast, Podbean, whatever. It's on the places. And I just put up the interview with the Honorable Brian Peckford, the audio, so you can check that out there. People, enjoy the day, enjoy the night. See you tomorrow.